After a couple of hours of playtime, Mario Kart World's open world left us slightly underwhelmed. But is there more to it? Don't get us wrong, there's still plenty to love here, but our extended hands-on did raise some questions and concerns about a few of the game's new features. Deep down, it's still Mario Kart, of course, and so ultimately, when you're doing Mario Kart things, racing friends, the CPU, randoms online, you will still have a great deal of fun. More or less exactly the same amount of fun, in fact, as you did with Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, we'd hazard a guess, as not an enormous amount has changed beside the addition of wall driving and grind rails, more on those shortly. But this really isn't a bad thing. Deluxe rightly goes down as one of the very best kart races ever, and it makes perfect sense to avoid diverting too much from such a magic formula. It's only when you're not doing Mario Kart things, namely not actually doing any racing, that things get a little bit wobbly. In fact, Mario Kart World's best moments are those that don't change at all, so much as just slightly enhance it. Couch co-op with the new Switch 2 camera in particular is a joy. A live camera feed of your face, or all four of your faces picked up by the one camera if you're playing split screen, is pinned onto your avatar on scoreboards, in pre-match montages, or hovering just above the back of your kart as you race by. It sounds simple, and it is, but then all little strokes of genius kind of are. Cue lots of attempts at live recreations of the Luigi death stare, for instance, and of course the instant comeuppances for overdoing it. Again, it's a tiny change, but what better thing to do with a near immaculately balanced entity like Mario Kart than to simply add an extra space for expression on top? That question's maybe made a little less rhetorical by the other attempts to freshen things up that Nintendo's made here, which, in admittedly still a very brief sampling of just a couple of hours, so far left us feeling a little mixed. On the better end is Knockout Tour, which is delightfully tense and a fine way of unconventionally melding genres with the once viral Battle Royale. It's also a wonderful way to show you more of Mario Kart World's smartly webbed together tracks, and an equally wonderful way to make races feel grander, longer, more climactic and involved. The only downside, of course, being that with higher highs come lower lows. The main one being that it feels absolutely rubbish to get knocked out early on. Expect tantrums if you're playing this with kids, or are yet to fully grow out of being one, as failing to reach the required position at the next checkpoint means either pootling about the open world while you wait for the lengthy 6-part race to conclude, or simply sitting there watching other people race until they're done. The racing itself, meanwhile, has had some mechanical tweaks, or rather additions, an added spoiler on the back, say, as opposed to proper changes under the bonnet. Items have been tweaked and new ones added too, like the ability to throw 3 waves of multiple hammers, a la Hammer Bro, which work well as a short-range crowd disruptor. The blue shell, meanwhile, now has an area of effect explosion, for instance, which is an interesting twist. We never actually saw this connect with other players in action, but theoretically, that seems to mean it could hit nearby players in 2nd or 3rd place, as well as the current front runner, potentially balancing out the perceived downside of moving into top spot. Races themselves, especially the massive 24-player ones that we expect to be wildly popular, also feel incredibly busy and tightly packed. On one occasion, a single player broke free of the main pack and got way out ahead, but on all the others, the entire group of 24 was essentially clustered in one vast, incredibly chaotic peloton. It's not uncommon to find yourself flying up from 20th to 5th and back down again, and probably back up and down a few more times soon after that too. The all items, all hazards on Super Smash Bros. Player inside you will take great pleasure in the carnage, but more intensely competitive players, we all know one, might have a few complaints about it being a bit too much. The biggest addition to actual moment-to-moment racing, meanwhile, is the wall driving and rail grinding. Holding down the drift button, crucially without adding any directional input, will begin to charge up a kind of extra high hop. Doing that by a grindable rail or any vertical wall at all will let you hop up onto it, potentially unlocking new side paths or shortcuts, or at the very least, just make you look quite cool. In the context of playing for the first time, and in just an afternoon, it was hard to really pick out too many advantages of this though. Modern Mario Kart's higher fidelity and thus detail generally makes it harder to pick out clear, navigable side routes amongst the visual noise as it is. But our suspicion is that there will be subtleties to the moments where you want to employ it at specific parts of specific tracks, as well as the actual proper shortcuts it makes possible. The act of using it, however, was pretty frustrating, mostly because of how it's mapped on the controller. More often than not, we found ourselves accidentally drifting when we meant to start charging up a hop, or just as often, we charged it but not early enough, and so we simply drove straight into the wall or rail we were trying to hop up onto. Adding it to the drift button and stipulating that you can't add a directional input at the same time is just a weird thing in practice. It means that any rails or walls near corners were basically out of the question, as timing the quite lengthy charge up as well as not turning while activating it was just one too many things to think about at the time. The reason for this, of course, is clear enough. While it's odd to put it on the same shoulder button when using the Switch 2 handheld or controller mode where it has two on each side, it does need to double up for when you're playing with just a single Joy-Con. We're hoping that with time it becomes muscle memory though, just as the muscle memory of drifting with that same button has become so ingrained that it's tricky to unlearn. Really, that's just a little quibble for now then, but there is one more significant concern we have about Mario Kart World, and that's the open world itself. It's hard to know exactly how deep a look we got at it with the time we had, but if what we saw was everything, and a Nintendo representative, while remaining appropriately coy, did seem to confirm to us that it was, then, well, we have to say, it was really quite dull. The good part is really the feat of assembling it itself, which we've no doubt took an extraordinary amount of work. Dozens of tracks all connected in one vast knot of courses and their connective tissue, something which feels almost impossible to think about given the range and verticality of a Mario Kart course over, say, the tracks of Forza Horizon. But when you actually imagine what it's like to drive around a load of Mario Kart tracks and the accompanying fields, valleys, rivers, and the like that dot the sidelines of them without an actual race going on, well, we worry it might just be a little pointless. Nintendo's promise is that there are plenty of secrets to uncover with enough diligence, and that their typical playfulness and invention will make the slightly aimless drifting around more worthwhile. In a good bit of time investigating, though, we didn't find anything of real note. There are little platforming sections for collectibles such as peach coins, which require a lot of skill at times and are heavily evocative of the old 3D platformer days, and there are special vehicles like lorries or hovercraft which occasionally spawn in the world and can be driven into the back of, temporarily granting you control of them. But then you drive your big lorry for about 20 seconds or so, plough through a few NPC cars, and spawn back out of it again. And, well, that's kind of that. Other activities are mostly doled out as part of P-Switch challenges. Drive over a blue P-Switch and a little activity will spawn, such as passing through several checkpoints while avoiding hazards against a tight time limit. But again, these are frightfully brief and ultimately a little repetitive. And after doing a handful of these, we just didn't feel a great urge to do any more. What else? Well, there are warp pipes, though they seem to just help you navigate the world via mini shortcuts rather than take you anywhere special. Yet, this is Mario after all, and we would be foolish to rule out any surprises. And crucially, there are also question mark pads which you can drive over. Doing so displayed a statement to the effect of, "You have driven over a question mark pad," which piqued our interest with its bluntness. Surely something interesting is happening here, but we didn't have enough time to figure out what. And that, ultimately, will be the real crux of it. Has Nintendo got a few secrets up its sleeve, or down its pipe? On the surface, admittedly based on just one brief first encounter, the big headline feature of Mario Kart World is a little underwhelming. But now at least we have one essential question to go in search of answers to once the Switch 2 properly arrives. And that is, since when does any proper Nintendo game reveal all of its secrets up front? It's going to be fun to find out. Thanks for watching this preview of Mario Kart World. If you enjoyed it, please do give it a like, subscribe to Eurogamer for our upcoming official reviews of Mario Kart World and the Switch 2, and why not check out this full Knockout Tour race, which is on screen and clickable right now. Goodbye.